Good morning, members, and good morning to the viewing public. It is 10:07 a.m. I call this Ways and Means budget hearing to order. Based pursuant to our OGA, the agenda has been passed out in advance, and each member should have a copy of it. I now move to the. I do believe we have a quorum, and with that, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? Thank you. There has been a motion to adopt today's agenda, uh, and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Uh, Moving along to the next order of business, public comments. Is there anybody in the gallery room that would like to make public comment with regards to the secretary's proposal? Being there's none, uh, before we have the secretary before us, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ralph Yumo, chairman for um, the Ways and Means Committee. To my left, we have Representative Blas Atal, vice chair. To my right, member of the Ways and Means Committee, our vice speaker, Rep. Joe Camacho. On the floor, we have um, Chairwoman Julie Ogle, member. To her left, we have Chairman for Natural Resources, Representative uh, Angelo Camacho. And to his left, we have the Vice Chair for SNIOD, Representative Roman Beneventi. And to his left, we have our Chairwoman for JGO, Representative Marissa Flores. And across, thank you, Ms. V, OMB, for making yourself available today. And to her left, we have member Representative Joe Flores. And to his left, we have the leader, and from the island of Tinian, Representative Patrick San Nicolas. And to his left, member uh, Representative Danita Yangtamay. And to her left, we have Chairman for FFA, Representative Vicente Camacho. To his left, we have our Senior Legislative Assistant, Ms. Claire Sablan, along with our Fiscal Analyst, TG, our Council, John Bradley. And we have our Sarge Tawai back there. Thank you. And our IT person, Dell. Thank you for making yourself available today. And with that, Sarge, please uh, escort the secretary. And secretary, if there's anyone that you would like to be with you, you may invite them to the.
Good morning. Well, seeing that we might not have enough chairs, but I would like to have some of my directors up, please. If you're here, UB, Rest,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
And yes, secretary, and with that, you have the floor. You may begin.
Well, I would like to introduce my team. Not everybody is here. I must apologize for that. NAP is not here, as you know. It's issuance and it's very hectic. Lines very long. And so all hands on deck up there, and including our acting director. But on my farthest left, I have Gordon. Gordon Salas is our uh, director for childcare licensing. And I have Roselle Billy. She's the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program coordinator. And to my far right, I have Vivian Sablan. She's the director of DYS. And my immediate right is Walter Manglonia, director of Office on Aging. So, again, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm praying at the same time that we'll have a nicer budget than we did last year. It's been very difficult, you to operate from nothing. So I'm hoping for a a good meeting today, and hopefully walk away with positive feedback from all of you. Um, I'm not sure of the format, so uh, do I just get into asking you what we've put on paper?
Uh, that's up to you, Secretary. You may uh, go over what's critical in your department and what needs to be funded. I do understand majority of DCCA has federal funds,
Mhm.
and maybe that's the reason why the operation was cut. It's to allow the department to utilize more of the federal grants, but I'm not sure. Um, and just by reviewing the grants portion, I believe some of us needs to be. We have new members, so we need to be updated as far as what the grants are allowed for and what is it is not allowed for. So we have a better understanding, and should there be additional funds that we do find in the budget that we can address, then we can it will be up to the members to decide what will be allotted to DCCA, and you still have the floor. So
Okay.
it's up to
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
No, that works for me. Thank you. So I'll start with the Office of the Secretary. We absolutely have nothing, and I mean nothing as in zero. And I'll have all of you know that when the divisions are in real dire need of anything, they come to the secretary. So I don't know how to help them. And just you mentioned a lot of that we do have a lot of federal funding. Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, you have to understand, it's not just community and cultural, it's a welfare agency. Okay, we serve the community from birth to Manamku. And I don't mean just giving them food and all, and even the food, we're gonna have a shortfall, and that's gonna be a big deal. We're trying to figure out how we're gonna do it, and like we talked about austerity, that's gonna hurt. It's really gonna hurt our poor people also. So I know that in the previous administration there was abundance of money with ARPA, and we also know that I'm not sure. I'm hearing that that's depleted. Uh, so where do we go from here? And I don't know whose bright idea it was to put people on 100% ARPA and civil service people. We went crazy trying to figure out how to meet the law in terms of retaining these people. Oh, you can't terminate civil service employees. So we have to keep them. How are we going to keep them if there's no money? And so we just started scrambling, looking into every federal account that we can put them. But that's not right. What happened to we don't tailor positions to the applicant. The applicant has to qualify for the position. All of a sudden it was not about that. It was about just scrambling to find anything. Just put them in, because we can't lose them per law. So I don't right now we are looking at corrective action. And this is where you guys, all of you, I'm sorry, with all due respect, I don't mean to say you guys, but uh, it's you who can help us fix all of that discrepancy now. Um, I have an archaeologist, for example, in historic preservation, who's essential to the grant. He was 100% ARPA. If we couldn't hold him, we lose our HBO, our reserve reservation funds. So we put him on a temporary grant. Okay, I have a renovation grant that we put him on there, but that's going to expire. Where am I going to put him? And part of all of these for the federal funding, we also need to be able to provide matching. These are not free. Okay, so for example, we had to get out of the Arts Council office and the gallery. The gallery is part of our matching for Arts Council. We might lose our grant. So if this body is depending on federal money, we have to make sure we hold on to those money. We need matching. Um, I know that money is hard to go by. There's a lot of probably debts we have to pay that are building up. We probably have many essentials like education, homeland security, and all of that. But we cannot serve our Manamco if we don't have the vehicles to take them out now. Okay, so we were able to get vehicles, but they're old. They need repairs and maintenance. Four essential things is what we need to survive. And I'll leave out some other essentials. For main essentials, we need to pay our power. We need fuel for our vehicles. We need repairs and maintenance to fix what breaks down. And we need communications money. Now, fine, maybe communications, but if we rely on our staff's cell phones, which probably everybody's walking around with a cell phone, then we rely on those cell phones, but we cannot dock them for not answering when we call because it's personal. And our phones will be disconnected because we can't pay for them. And so, again, you cannot ask us, why aren't you answering your phones? I'm not even going to ask for travel. But then, what if you ask us, are you checking on your programs in Rhode and Tinian? Now, really, you have to ask yourselves, is that fair? No, I'm telling you, my directors are top notch. They're on top of things. And we try. I get on them if they're not. They know. But if we don't have the funds, I can't blame them too. Our bathroom at the Manomco needs fixing. It's pathetic. I would say that. And it's our facility. It's leaking. But our federal funds cannot fix structure. We cannot renovate. So come down, visit, and come down and use our bathroom. You'll see. And give me some money, I'll build a first class, second class bathroom. No. But it's one thing to have $1,000 here and there, but man, zero is how do you work with zero? So honestly, I'm very depressed coming here because I don't want to cry because what am I defending? Zero. Now, yes, some of my programs we have federal money, but they're earmarked. They're applied with, you cannot just apply for federal money and say, we just need money to do what we need to do. No, you have to specify. And like everything else, we have to budget. We have to show how much is personnel, how much is, and that's all you can use. And you can only reprogram a certain amount also, not to exceed a certain percent. So that's the thing with our federal money. Yes, we have. But guess what? From aging, for example, and he can answer questions if you have, but aging, for example, there's going to be a shortfall of Manomco food because the numbers keep going up. The telephone LIHEAP, it's happening out there, and the Manomcos are just signing up. And so we're going to have a shortfall. Food stamps is going up because of the ARPA. We let a lot of employees go. They qualify for food stamps. We are going to have a shortfall in food stamps. Surprise. I thought, well, I'll never say that. But yeah, so now director and I are figuring out where do we make an adjustment so that we can make sure that it goes a long way Do we adjust the income poverty level, or do we adjust the benefit level? You know, those are the things. And we're looking at upgrading at the same time, but man, it's so hard to upgrade when you're just trying to stay afloat, you know. And when I'm saying upgrade, we're moving on with the EBT swipe card. We're praying that it'll happen in February. So I think we'll still have a line, but won't be as long as it is now. And by the way, if people are wondering why the line is longer now than it was earlier in the month, it's because earlier in the month, only low-income families would be eligible to come and get their food stamps. But now every child in the CNMI is eligible for that summer EBT, and that's why the line is all the way up to the airport. We have that many kids. So um, those are our programs. Our LIHEAP too, we are behind in payment because it's really a lot of processing. So we're dealing with those two every day. We have licensing program. I was very fortunate that we have federal money with Child Care Development Fund, but also the fund cannot pay for unlimited stuff for licensing. Um, and there's a division also between licensing and CCDF, Child Care Development Fund. There's a fine line there because licensing is responsible to give licenses to those that CCDF will give subsidy to. So we have that fine line to make sure there's no, hey, buddy, just do this favor. None of that conflict. So um, see, there's things that we cannot do with federal money. Um, Historic preservation, we have a huge grant. We are going to do renovation, but even that, everybody's coming in and saying, "Hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us? Can you pay for this? Can you?" We want to renovate also. Uh, I want to renovate the Manomco Center with that money, but you know what? It cannot, because that money you must qualify um, historic preservation structures, buildings, and there's a criteria to qualify. The Manamku Center, unfortunately, does not qualify there. So, um, there's 7 projects. There's 7 buildings in that. I'm not building 7 projects. Capitol Hill Complex is one of them, and I think inclusive of this building. Uh, and but there's a lot of others that are asking to be on that project. Should we have money left over for that, we will be looking into qualifying, doing work on some other qualified buildings. Other federal grants that we've been getting, and we're still looking around. What else can we qualify for? What kind of grants can we apply for? But still, they are limited. We can probably share supplies, things like that. Is why it's not in the 4 that I listed. We can share, but certain things we cannot. No. So I think that's a mouthful. So I yield right here.
Thank you, Secretary, for the update. Maybe we can, um, because a lot of, like myself, I don't understand the what grants. All we see is balances here, and a lot of the times we don't know if that can be used or when can it be used. We see a lot of grants. We don't know when it expires, so that's something that needs to be addressed here, because as you know, utilities is one of the big issues here in the cinema. And when we look at all the grants, not only in your agency or department, uh, almost each grant has utilities embedded in it. So we're trying. The committee would like to know, is that allowable? Is that for the whole grant year, or is it just for a certain I guess fiscal year. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe you
Well,
can explain that.
we only have a few divisions that have federal money. Let me first clarify that. Child care licensing program does not have federal. Language Commission doesn't have federal. We don't. The Secretary's office, and there's one more that doesn't have federal money. But those that do, I'll let them speak for their grants. We can start with Walter.
Good morning, Chair, Committee, Director, Walter Mangalonia from the Office on Aging. So we actually have been applying for various grants in addition to our current grants from the Administration for Community Living. And like what the Secretary mentioned earlier, a lot of these funds are actually earmarked specifically for services. We do have a cap of 5% to be able to use for administrative purposes. And that's basically what we use to help pay for utilities. Right now, we've been doing a massive cost cutting in regards to our utilities here in Saipan. I'm pretty sure Rhoda and Tinian, with their respective resident directors, pretty much implementing the same thing. Most of the rooms at the senior center is not being utilized right now, only during typhoon shelters. We've actually closed most of the rooms down so that we can help save costs on utilities. Our seniors are pretty much packed in the congregation area, but from time to time, they do want to go to their exercise room. They do want to go to their music room. They do want to go back to the arts and crafts room. But now we are trying to figure out how we can try to schedule and allow them to be able to do their activities within that same confine of the dining area so that we can continue to save costs. So, in other words, we're doing what we can to be able to try to alleviate costs on the utility side. Um, all of our grants, most of them are broken down into different sections. And one of the biggest part of our program is nutrition. And if you see our cumulative grant that we receive, you guys just see numbers, right? Out of those grants, there's only three of them that are actually allowed to be used for meals. And that's the Title III C1, which is the congregate meal services, C2, which is the home delivery meal services, and our support grant, which is what we call the Nutrition Service Incentive Program. If you add all of those up, it's just a little bit over 400 some thousand dollars a year. And if we start doing the math, and I can probably not give you the exact number just for the sake of confidentiality, but let's just say over $4 per plate. We are currently, paying for food here in Saipan, and the cost is a little bit more in Tinian and a lot more in Rhoda. And I mean, just look at the price difference. And we've been going out there trying to figure out ways to be able to alleviate costs, and that's the reason why we procured a vessel so that we'll be able to buy the food here and ship it down there. But at the same time, we're not fully committed to just buying food from here. Although we do save a lot of funds, it's still not enough, because if you look back, let's say even 5 6 years ago, the number of meals and the amount per plate is a lot lower. You're looking at less than $3, and now you're looking over $4. And if you don't have to hear from me, but I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar with the price hikes that really hurt us. And our federal grantors are aware, and their question is, what's the state doing? What is the local government doing to address this issue? Zero. It you know it's not feasible for me to just go back and say, oh yeah, they're aware that we're struggling, but I just ask that we put the manamko as part of the essentials, the group of population that we need to give money to, because whether it be cost cutting to feed them basta uh, instead of salmon, right? Or we feed them a certain type of food because our caterers have to cut costs to be able to, serve within the means. And I can understand why, a lot of people are a little bit concerned about that because, healthy food's not cheap. And we do want to serve the best food for our monomco. And this is not just for Saipan. I was just in Tinian yesterday. I've been to Tinian frequently, a lot more. And um, I was able to sit down with our monomco. I sat down with, our my coordinator down there, the RD, and we all share the same challenges. I've been in communication frequently with the RD from Rhoda and my coordinator, and everything from the bathroom issue that we're trying to address. Just a simple band-aid's not going to fix the problem. Being able to fix things, being able to do things, and they keep talking about our federal grants. I've been working super hard. Every grant that's available, out in grants.gov or Grant Solution, I get it. Every single grant. Once it's out there, whether it be 10 grand, 15 grand, I go and apply for it. I get it. But I can't use those grants for food. I can't use those grants to fix the restroom. What you see if you go down to the restroom is us, the staff, fixing the toilets. We come in the weekends, we paint. We're not experts, but we can't afford to go out there and contract somebody to be able to make the restroom as nice as we want it. And no matter how nice it is, we have a population of over 60 seniors that come in daily, and the wear and tear is definitely going to be a part of it. And it is what it is. I want to make sure that I do let everybody know that we've been doing major cost cutting on our end, and we're trying our best not to shortchange our seniors because I just finished our state plan for the next 4 years. I've completed the close to final draft right now that's being routed for review. And you guys can see so many great programs in there, so many activities, everything from the chore program. There's some seniors out there that don't have the means to cut their grass. And we used to go out there and cut it for them. During typhoons, when they don't have families to cover up their windows, my staff will go out there. We'll buy the plywood. We'll cover it for them. We would do stuff that we used to do back in the day. Now we are like hauling them to the shelter and just hope for the best that their house is not demolished. Those little things add up. We deal with people with religious restrictions in regards to their diet, or people that are diabetics and they cannot eat certain type of food, or people that are undergoing hemodialysis. We are actually getting on board a full-time nutritionist that's going to be working directly with us, so that we can be reviewing our meals for the islands of Saipan, Rota, and Tinian. But being able to just keep tapping into our federal funds to be able to do that, um, it's gonna be a tall task. And I promised myself I'm not gonna come out here and complain. I have solutions. I have ways to be able to try to accommodate, but I want to be realistic, and I want to let you guys know the stress that I'm going through. As a manager, somebody who gets blamed if the food is not good. Like, oh my goodness. So if they don't like the food, um, now I'm trying to figure out what type of food are they gonna like. So it kind of brings you back to like the movie The Sound of Music. Like, how do you catch a cloud and pin it down, or how do you keep a wave upon the sand? How do you please all the manamko? I don't know. If you guys know, let me know. Somebody likes kangkong, the other one doesn't like kangkong. I don't know. But as long as we are following the nutritional guideline and what is required by our federal grantor, it is what it is. And I just want to let you guys know that we've been out. I know the secretary will be joining us, going out there personally to meet our seniors. And I know I'm warning her that her heart's going to break. And if you guys can go out there and see what I see and see the situation that they're in, we need that chore program back. And federal funds are not going to be able to accommodate that. We need to get employees. We need to get equipment. We need to get fuel. We need to get all these things to go out there, not just bush cut, but help clean. If they don't have anybody else to go in there and clean their house for them, let's do that, you know. And I wrote the state plan, um, from scratch, from top to bottom. I put down every single thing that's in the Older Americans Act, and then I also input the stuff that I got based on the feedback from our Monumco and my personal experience working there for over 21 years. I've been a director for over 10 years, and I've heard every single complaints, and it hurts my heart to be able to see the budget that we have to work with. I need food money at $4, at 465 meals. You're looking at 1,953, and in the entire year, you're looking at over $468,000. That just wraps up our budget. What about Tinian? What about Rhoda? What are we gonna do? You know, so we're going out there. We're partnering up with different agencies. We're reaching out to um, commerce. They got these other grants, but it's just not enough to be able to kind of get what we need. We're not asking for more. We're just asking for help. As part of the MOE matching requirement for most of our grants, we haven't been receiving that for the past 4 years. And I understand where we are economically. I understand that we're recovering. I understand that we're going through a lot. I understand that sometimes you're going to have to rob Peter to give Paul. And in my case, I need you guys to be my Robin Hood and make us Paul for the sake of our Monomco. All right, and that's what we need. And with all due respect, I'm gonna go ahead and yield and allow my other directors to be able to let you guys know. And if you guys look at our budget, all I'm asking for is just help, because it doesn't matter what's in the state plan. It doesn't matter how many programs and services I put in there if we don't have the employees to be able to accommodate these things. And through partnership, through proper planning, cost cutting, help, and of course, a little funding from our local government, we're definitely going to meet our goal. And we want to make sure that we continue to do that for our Manamco. You know, Jesus Masi, and God bless. And I just off the record, I mean, on a separate note, thank you so much, Congresswoman Yang Tumay and Edmund, for the resolution. That means so much to us. All of you guys, thank you so much. And I read that personally yesterday, um, and I was in tears. I love every single word that was written in that resolution, and I've worked there for 21 years. That's the first one that we ever got from you guys, and I really thank you guys for that. And yes, and let's continue to do that, and let's put smiles on our Manamco's faces. We lost two of our Manamco just a couple of weeks ago. Let's make them happy. Let's do this for them. Para mañanata, ¿no? Thank you. Ayo.
Thank you, Director, for that. Before we move on to the other, since we're at the aging, I did see some of your grants, and do see the balance. So just for clarification, so for example, like the Title 3 you were talking about, there's utilities embedded in there. So what does that cover in the Title 3? It's called aging or older. Ameri
Americans.
Title 3 meals.
Right. So for every grant that we have, with the exception of a few, the preventive health programs, because that needs to be an evidence-based type of program to be able to accommodate that type of service. The elder abuse prevention program, those are the grants that we don't use utilities for, but everything else, those are grants that we actually set aside to be able to assist in paying utilities
So that's being used to address the center's utilities.
here in Saipan.
That's okay. Just
Yes.
just so that we understand, because uh, it depends on the agency. Sometimes you're not allowed. Maybe it's for a different year. Maybe last year or this year's used already. So just so we get that clarification, and then I'm noting that you do need an additional 200,000 plus for the meals. Is that the meals ending this year or
So yeah, what we need is, if we get that funding, we want to be able to start from next fiscal year.
okay?
This fiscal year, the reason why we're able to hold on is that the Administration for Community Living actually allows us a grace period of 5 years to spend down our funds, although those previous fundings are not a lot, so they're practically being spent. So even if we were to reprogram those funds, we're not going to be able to meet our required funding to be able to accommodate services.
Okay. So for 2024, we would need additional. That's what you're saying.
At $200,000, I believe this plus the federal funds will be able to allow us to continue service effectively.
And this is only for Saipan.
Saipan, Tina, and
Okay.
Aurora.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
And okay, so you may continue. Whoever's. Uh,
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chair and members. Vivian Sablan of the Division of Youth Services. If my colleague here wants to be Paul, I hope I'm not Peter, so you're not taking away from us. But again, I noticed that we do have new members in the House, so what I wanted to do is kind of introduce our program and also share the types of funding that DYS receives and what we asked of the body this morning. So with DYS, we operate several different units and programs for all three islands. We are comprised of 39 employees. For the Office of Admin, we have 6 employees. We have the Child Protective Services, which responds to child abuse and neglect cases. We have 10 FTEs there. We do also oversee the Juvenile Probation Unit, which has 6 employees there. We have a 24/7 emergency shelter program, which operates every day, 24 hours a day. The only time it is closed is when we don't have children placed. We do have a main prevention hub, which also has us overseeing the Cagman Community Center and the Tanapak Youth Center. Under that program, we do have 7 employees. And then, of course, on the islands of Tinian and Rota, we have our satellite offices with 2 employees each. We are very fortunate that we do have federal funding that allows us to operate every year. And I guess similarly to the other divisions, we do have our own restrictions on how we spend those funds. So for our bigger grants, which is the Social Services Consolidated Block Grant, we receive about 1.5 million every year. Out of that, we're looking at about just a little bit over a million for personnel costs only. And IDC with utilities, we are spending about close to 70,000. And then the rest of that, which is a difference of almost 400,000, goes to operational costs. We also have a small grant from the Leadership in Disabilities of Achievement in Hawaii, which is about 20,000 that we are given to assist families with children with disabilities. And then, of course, we do have our local funding, and we were fortunate this year to receive some ARPA funding under the Family Violence and Prevention and Services Act. However, with that funding, a minimum amount is going to DYS. Otherwise, we are kind of like serving as a pass-through agency to sub-grant total award of 780,000, which will be co-shared with the Northern Marianas Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, as well as CARIDOT. Why we took on this endeavor, at the end of the day, we're serving the same family. So if we have to do the work, we will, although we're just getting a small cut of the funding. Also, we're very fortunate to receive about 100,000 in federal grants under CJPA, and that grant allows us to assist with the prevention programs. A good chunk of it is going to juvenile probation, and then the rest of the chunk assists us with the stipend for foster care. Restrictions for those grants, of course, each grant has their specific authorities. Out of the grants I mentioned, the only grant that is a little bit more flexible is the social services block grant. Although we have to spend it according to a uniform definition of services, it allows us to provide a lot of social service projects and activities for the community. We're here today to kind of ask assistance. As I mentioned, we operate a 24/7 shelter. We operate the Tonopah Youth Center and the Kankman Community Center, which has been very active for the community. Along with operating those come the repairs and maintenance cost, come the utilities cost. So for utilities for the entire DYS, we spend about 70,000 or so a year. Yard cleaning, maintenance, including maintaining those water tanks and the facility itself, we're looking at about 60, 70,000 as well. Um, so we are on a zero budget. Our grant does indicate utilities costs. However, our grantors are wanting us to shy away a little bit from the maintenance part because just like what aging director said, a lot of our grants need to go to programs and services because they're relying on our local funding to kind of meet the other side of it, which is the maintenance of the outlets that we have. Aside from that, we also take care of the San Paulo Youth Center in Rhoda. So we're here to ask for additional funding for utilities, repairs, and maintenance, and cleaning services for the facilities that we are in charge of. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And I believe OMB, the utilities is covered under the administration, correct?
We have a small amount of funding allocated to utilities, and that will be shared by everybody. I know that it is insufficient at the moment, but we're anticipating should the reimbursements that we're expecting from one of the programs, could be diverted towards, helping all the other needs that were not included in the budget for all the departments and agencies.
Thank you, Ms. Villagomez. Before we go to the questions, I think the famous one is the LIHEAP, no, Ms. Resale. Maybe you can update us because that's one of the highly sought after program in the CNMI. So maybe if you can brief us, no?
Good morning, Tiro. Um, Let me get to the point. The reason we're here.
And I know you asked for 100,000 last year.
Yes.
I did remember when I was in there, you asked directly for additional 100,000. So it's still noted.
I did for quite a few years. Never been granted, but LIHEAP is really at stake at this time. We have increase of applicants that have come in for seeking assistance to subsidize their electric due to the cut of hours, the recent inflation of the utility. So at this point, I do receive federal assistance from our grantor. That's only about, to date, I only receive about 300,000, 372,000. Fiscal year 23 CNMI local budget only appropriated 60,000. We're in third quarter now, and my funding level is very low. So I've been trying my best to see, in terms of case management, case by case basis, we've been reducing benefit levels for some families that have been on the program, and we're working closely with them in trying to get them into the workforce and whatnot to assist their household with income. So, with that, I am really also requesting for your consideration in giving me funding for personnel. Right now, there's only 4 personnel on board. Two of us are currently under federal grant. The federal grants that is assisting our program is only capped at 10% for admin costs. We've exceeded that. Um, I've been tapping into federal for operational needs because I've just received. I mean, I only got utility assistance of 60,000 for FY23 and the rest of the personnel. So with that, I'm pleading to this body, if you can please assist low-income home energy assistance program under DCCA to ensure that we can help our low-income household um, with their benefit and subsidy needs.
Thank you, Director, for the update. I didn't know that. So the 60,000 that's needed or more, and the FTE. So you said how many FTEs?
We have 4 FTEs. One is zeroed out.
Okay.
3 are currently on board, and 2 of us are under the federal grant.
Um, Salas, no, you can update us.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Gordon Salas, Child Care Licensing Program. I do not receive federal funding directly, but I do utilize a significant amount of federal funding. But before diving into that, because there are new members, I'd like to establish a foundation. One of your members, Congressman Kamatsu, is very familiar with the program, and I hope you share that. So, CCLP, which is the Child Care Licensing Program under the umbrella of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, was established back in 1994. Its authority is derived from Public Law 4-67, as amended by Public Law 4-69, and codified under Title 3 of the Commonwealth Division Code. The main function and mission of the licensing program is to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of the children. So the licensing process is to establish the the requirements to protect exactly the most vulnerable population in the cinema. That's from the cradle side, and from the Manomco side will be the Office of Aging. And so I am utilizing, like I said, a significant amount of federal funding, and this funding comes from the Child Care and Development Fund. I am here. We are all here seeking your assistance. Um, I am put in an imminent situation in that in the near future or the new fiscal year, I stand to lose a lot of manpower. The structure right now is that we have integrated federal funding to some staff. So some of us are 72% local, 28% ARPA, and a combination thereof. And so, like the secretary was saying, there is a fine line. Unfortunately, I'm left in a situation where I have to seek federal funding in order to have the program stay afloat. If the program does not stay afloat, the most affected population will be the children. We are looking at 200 plus teachers and staff that we have to screen and approve. and close to 1,000 children. Todo do siya famaguon ni. No. So we have to perform the mandates of the program, and the mandates is the health and safety. And if I don't have the staff and the resources, then we cannot perform the mandates of the program. So we are here asking for that assistance. I cannot wholly depend on a federal fund because they have their own threshold. Um, they whatever assistance is afforded to licensing, we greatly appreciate that. But we are also aware that it's not forever. And thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any further? Is there anyone? I don't see anyone from HPO. Is there a representative for HPO or?
Yeah, I must apologize. Our
Oh,
HBO director, she got injured, and she's unable to come
okay.
today. But I did review their budget. I have to admit, uh, I am so into all the programs and program implementation, making time to visit all our clients, from the juveniles who are in the detention down to the Manamku daycare centers. I'm trying to visit every client, uh, all the client centers that we are serving, so that I can better understand what is the big deal. What is the priority? And I have to say that, man, I've never been. If I was passionate before, I'm like 20 times more passionate now, because I'm seeing with my two eyes. You will cry if you see the Manamku. Some of the see, our director is writing a grant for protective services also for our Manamku. We don't have that here yet. There are Manamkus out there, and forgive me to be really down to earth about it, but they're may gugi alo me minia. I know they're sleeping on cots that they've peed on. you know it's I'm sorry, it's just wrong. So it's that bad. We cannot even buy them cots, and we cannot even say, I Mano ni pa been referred si kato na abuse. Where do we refer that kind of abuse? We don't have an agency. We don't have the money to help them. So um, I want to tell you that DCCA, man, it's about people, our people. Manamasi. So, okay, I'm sorry. When I get back to HBO, um, I haven't really looked in detail on money because I'm so busy going out to see the people we serve. No, that's what I'm trying to say. But for HBO, really, we need to get our archaeologists back on that grant. Uh, I mean, to save our grant, we need to get our archaeologists back on a permanent FTE, and we need to get an historian in, because that's also a requirement, just like archaeologists. We don't have an historian. We need one. And we need a couple more techs that we lost because of ARPA. Somebody put them on 100% ARPA. We had to let them go. We cannot give permits if we don't have our techs go out and do their thing, inspections and all the work that they do to do 106 clearances. Uh, and if we don't do that, I'm understanding that these things that we do it also affects the bigger picture, the revenue that would come into this government. So there's our projects out there, and we're holding on to their permits because we cannot clear them if we don't properly inspect them. So we need two techs in there at least, but two techs, we can survive. Historian and an archaeologist, if you can please assist us to get our FTEs back funded, and so we can properly place them where they should be. Free up some of our grant money so that we can do the services. Then we can pay like our power maybe, and so FTEs for HPO is really what it is. We have a $6 million grant that's solely for renovation, and that grant, when I came in, is in danger of expiring. But we're gonna do everything we can to save it, and we're executing already Capitol Hill project. There's 7 projects on that grant. The top and foremost is Capitol Hill. We want to execute that in the next couple weeks. So as up to yesterday, we had already identified some of the contractors that we want to give the projects to, and some houses they need only painting, and so some of the projects are very easy, but we have some really complicated houses to do. While that's working, we're going to go to the next project and the next project until we finish all 7. Meanwhile, we are asking for an extension from the grantor because it expires this September 30. So in that grant, we put the archaeologist there because we didn't know where to put him. We need him. But we need an FTE to put him into 2024, FY 2024. If we lose that, then we lose our grant.
Secretary, for the record, the archaeologists, because we don't see the request here, we're not sure. So maybe that's something you have to provide the committee
Yes.
if the archaeologist is really needed, and the
Yes.
technicians, because we know there's projects going on out there. So we need to see those as soon as possible, so that before we deliberate, we can address those that are really needed, especially if the archaeologists or those technicians are needed with regards to the DR projects that are going on here in the Sinumay. So that's something that we need to clarify. Um, is there any other that would like to, before we open up the questions to the members?
Also, I'd like to talk a little bit about NAP. Again, I just want to reiterate that we have that shortfall coming up. We'll be experiencing, but we are trying to see how we can rectify that. So we still spread the wealth out, uh, and we finished our food stamp negotiation a month, 2 months ago. Oh, last month, and we're still getting the same amount that we've been getting the last few years, but we asked for a $4 million cushion, which I'm praying that it's going to be in the MOU that we will be signing probably in a couple months. The NAP, we will be doing some additional programs, uh, like for example the work requirement. It's We also are reviewing the possibility of converting to SNAP, although there's so many good things about it, but maybe the one or two not so good things about it is pretty heavy. And sometimes that one heavy one just kind of drowns all the good stuff. So some of those things might be up for discussion. We'll be bringing it up to all of you when we're ready to kind of open the discussion with you, this body, and the governor, and then lieutenant governor. So that's on NAP. On Arts Council, I'm sorry, Miss Gloriana, the acting. Her mother was taken to the hospital early this morning, so she's unable to attend with us. But Arts Council too, it just doesn't have funding. They're the ones we Secretary's office is always trying to see what we can do to assist with also what nothing we have. But one of the things about Arts Council, they need their canoe carvers back. Festpac is coming up next year. We need to finish that canoe that's going to be going to Hawaii next year for Festpac. It's one of the biggest representation of the CNMI. And if we want to make that happen, then we need the 2 carvers back. So those 2 FTEs critical to finishing that canoe on time. Please make time to visit the Canoe House down at the Civic Center. It's coming along very slowly because we lack two carvers. Talk to John Costru. He's the lead down there, and please visit. And then we have our language commission. We're looking at well, we have our acting is here. Uh, he he is a community development specialist that we made acting because the language commission director resigned since I believe December or January. But that program absolutely has no money, and we get a lot of heat from the community. Often na tawag sa programa ng Chamorro, Carolina, and Guinea. Guam is so hyped up, and honestly, it's hard to do anything with nothing. I hate to say that because I'm not that kind of person, but it is what it is. It's the reality. So I know this is probably not as essential as other departments, but just keep us in mind. We also do important things for our community. And okay, I yield for questions.
Thank
Sorry.
you, Secretary. I see my old classmate back there. Is she involved with any Miss Loste? Or is she a director by now? Or
Yes, she is. She's the CCDF Child Care Development Fund director.
okay, is it still Miss Loste or it's a different?
Hoping not soon,
Ah, good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. Excuse me, 'cause I'm so nervous. And I left my folder. The Child Care and Development Fund program is 100% federally funded, so we do not get any other funding to support all of the wonderful programs that we have that serves our infants 6 weeks up until 12 years old or just before they turn 13. So we have child care centers that we support, as well as our home-based providers. Primarily, they are currently relative care. Centers, we currently have 15. Um, 15 total centers. We are anticipating to have one more. They are in the process of getting their license. And we have currently a total of 41 home-based providers. We are very happy to share to this committee that really we've ramped up on our activities relating to encouraging our home-based providers. And primarily, it's really because we are looking at the mass exodus that could happen coming soon because of our CW. Our providers are heavily reliant on CW workers. And so that was another way that we hope to be able to, if for lack of better words, save some of the childcare spaces, because we know if these providers leave, these teachers, caregivers leave, then who's going to replace the teachers? So I think based on calculations, we need to have about 200 home-based providers to be able to accommodate the kind of population that our center-based providers are servicing. Now we have been I guess sharing some of the resources with specifically our childcare licensing office, because before a provider can come to the CCTF program, they must be licensed. So the CCDF program is also here to, in support of the child care licensing program, because if there is no licensing program, then we won't have any provider that's going to be catering to CCDF families. So currently, as of April, our population, we are serving over 800 children. And this is a center based. We have sorry, with total of subsidized children. In terms of the limitations of the grant, um, we are only allowed to use 5% of the funds for administration. The bulk of the funds must go to subsidy, and this is 70%. And when we say subsidy, this is the money that we reimburse providers for their childcare services. um, to support, of course, the cost of care, we have we've done two kinds of market rate surveys as well as a narrow cost analysis to determine really how much does the cost of care for each child. So currently, for infants and toddlers, we are about 700 plus 700. I'm looking at Rosal because she did the what's this? And then for our preschools, 500, 600, and then for after school services, it's 550. We are also happy to share that through our narrow cost analysis, we are able to differentiate the funding or the reimbursement for our Rhoda and Tinian providers. So in Rhoda and Tinian, they do have a higher reimbursement rate, and that is 900 for infants and toddlers, 918, 780 for infant and toddlers. Oh, and 900 for toddlers. So this is for our Rhoda and Tinian. And because we were able to do this because of, I mean, we know how expensive the cost of living in our other islands. So for the other percentages, sorry, so administration is 5%, the certificate or the subsidy is 70%. The quality activities is 15%, school age is 1%, infant and toddler activities is 8%, and quality expansion is 1%. So when we prepare our grant, we must meet these percentages. If we go below that, then we get a citation, or they say, "Well, Marbel, what's going on? Why are you not meeting the requirement?" And so we want to make sure that we meet these. In terms of another limitation is that we are not able to do construction. And even with renovation, there's a fine line of what is considered renovation. So I guess, it's embarrassing, I guess, if that is the right word to say, to ask for funding, but I'll go ahead just for the record. But I know that the other directors their plight is really, I guess, the request is much more important. But I would just like to say, in support of our local workforce. So, because what we have seen is that although we are able to encourage our US eligible workers to come into the centers to become teachers and caregivers, their salaries are really low. And oftentimes they would leave, even though they love working with our children, they would leave for a difference of 5 cents in the salary. The prevailing wage for a caregiver, I believe, is a minimum wage $7, 7.28. So if we can maybe perhaps get some money to be able to at least put a little more in their salaries, especially for our local workforce, I think that would be helpful. Thank you. And for any question.
Thank you, Ms. Laste. That wasn't hard, right? You're used to it. Just a couple of questions before you leave. The CWs that is affected, how many do you have? I mean, throughout the cinema that's in childcare, roughly, teachers or caregivers. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it was 90%. So I guess that the numbers have improved because now we have the long term category.
Hmm.
So they some many of them have gone into that long term, but at the same time, now that they are long term, we're not also able to keep them because now they're going to the public school system.
Right. Just so we know, because as you know, the CW issues, at least we can justify some of the issues that are going to be happening before us. Thank you for that. And with regards to the subs to the care, I mean,
Subsidy.
subsidies, right, for
Yes.
child, is frontliners still being
Yes, sir.
giving? They're still.
Yes. So we have gotten a clarification that for as long as we still have money, then the frontliner category is still going to be in place. And so we have not made any changes to our definition of frontliners. In fact, we have increased our definition,
Okay.
or added additional definition under the frontliner definition. So now that we are recovering, now that we are looking into tourism, we have added those types of categories in the frontliner. So hotel workers are now under that, considered as a frontliner. Anybody working the restaurants, etc.
Thank you for that update. I used to be a recipient of that, just in case you, but I have to give it up. But uh, thank you for that update. And with that, I'll now open the floor up. I know I have a vice speaker, then Rep Flores, Rep Angelo, Rep Manny, then Rep Julie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Madam Secretary, and to your key team directors. Good morning, welcome to the legislature. My question is more directed to DYS. How many current staff is under DYS right now?
We have 39. So what I broke down earlier, the 39, out of the 39, I have two in Rota, two in Tinian, and then the 35 are Saipan based. Out of the FTEs, I held off to announcing three. So on those that are covered under federal, I held off on announcing two FTEs, and then I held off on announcing one under local, so that we were able to save our staff from the austerity, because the daily mandates are just very, there's a lot to do in a day. So we tried to do that instead of hiring somebody new. We kind of held off on those, hoping that we can go back to it for FY 2024, but 39 in total.
39. um, if you can excuse me for a moment.
While we wait for the vice speaker, go ahead. Go ahead. Of the 39, how many are federally funded?
There are 28 that are federally funded, 11 funded under local. I just learned recently that on the budget revision, we were given two shelter caretakers. I'm waiting for a green light to see if I can be able to move forward and announce that. With 11, the 80% is being charged to local, 20% is currently being assessed with federal funds.
Okay, because on the governor's submission to the legislature, you have 21 total on the local side, but of the 21, there's 11 vacancies.
Those 11 are unfunded, zero funded.
Except for the caretaker, right? The
Yeah, so
shelter.
now we're up. So what happened in the beginning of the fiscal year? I was given the green light because we were given one shelter caretaker to announce. In the process of announcing that, it was rejected because the bottom line figure on our budget wasn't enough to carry that one shelter caretaker. So recently on the budget revision, I had learned that we were given two emergency shelter caretakers. So we're looking at 13 now that are funded, and then the rest are zero funded.
Okay. With that, I'd highly recommend that we send that out so at least the paperwork starts flowing and we can get that position announced, and we'll make sure that the budget does not take that money away
Yes,
from you
please, and
guys.
please consider keeping the grants management specialist on board or the grant writer. I meant to hold off on that. I am currently the one working on grants, just so that I will be able to save the 11 folks from the austerity. But I would like to come back and announce that for FY 2024. So we're looking at the two emergency shelter caretakers and the grant writer for me to announce shortly.
Okay. That's fair enough. You're back. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I'm just kind of finding this odd because this is the first time I've came across through all the budget hearings we've had where a department, you guys are requesting for 12 FTEs at 467,941. Is that correct?
For the local funding.
Yes.
So right now I'm aware that we have standing 13 FTEs that are funded with a budget of about 325,000 bottom line budget for now.
Are you aware that the governor is giving you an additional 9 FTEs under the governor's proposal?
I'm not aware. It'll
Oh.
be nice, but I'm not aware.
Yes, that's actually currently proposed by the administration. So I'm just wondering if you were aware of that.
I'm not aware, but I do know that I've been asking for personnel. We operate the 24/7 shelter, and that is why I've been singing the same tune of getting more people for that operations. So with the budget revision recently, I was informed that I got the two additional emergency shelter caretaker.
Okay, thank you, Director Sablan. And my last question, Vice. Under the Chamorro and Carolian language division, um, it's showing that the department's requesting for 5 FTEs at a level of 315,558. And the governor for the fiscal year 2024 is proposing 5 FTEs at $171,071. So that's a difference of $144,487 without an increase in FTE. So is that just all dedicated to like a pay raise, salary increases, or what does that entail?
I'm sorry. All I can see is are the 2, 4, 5 FTEs. That's what I see. In our documents. And those are the current.
Yep.
Those are the current people also listed, that employees that are listed or are on the list, the current list that I see. I am not aware, but if whichever those
But the thing is, the level of the salaries requested is 315,558, and the governor's proposing, which is at the current level, 5 FTEs under the Chamorro and Carolinian language division at $171,071, which seems to be the current, or actually, it's an increase of 20,525 from the fiscal year 2023 revised budget. Uh, I'm just wondering, there's a difference in in your request versus what the governor's proposing of 144,487 without an increase in FTE. So my assumption is when I see these in the budget proposals or budget requests, is that's a request for salary increases. Is that correct?
I don't. I'm sorry. That might have been a mistake,
Just
probably
a
on the.
just a point of clarification to the vice speaker's question. I think the $171,000 that the governor had submitted here does not include is inclusive of the five NOPs at 90%. So that's why it's at the 171. What you're looking at we don't see the details of the department or the agency's submission to the administration. All we see is a total number. So there's probably a breakdown. Maybe it's increments that's included in the submission by the department and agency, but we don't get that detailed breakdown. We only see the amount, the total amount.
Uh, Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'll discuss it with our fiscal analysts. For now, you, Vice.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Representative Flores, please.
Hi, thank you, Vice Chair. So I was way before all of this, I was actually reading on your program, and you have a lot of programs. So just gonna try to go through my notes here and take it one program at a time. So please bear with me, and I'm gonna see how I can navigate through my notes. So before I even get through the notes, I'm gonna go back, and I want to discuss some history. So on May 21st, 2020, during the ARPA inception of the ARPA funds, there was a press release, and Miss Vicky's here. The program announced that it will use 3.25 million under the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, which is the CARES Act. 163 million for administration, 1.5 million for child care subsidy, 1.7 million for quality activities that include addressing territory and CCDF, health and safety standard regulations, improving child care quality through the quality rating improvement systems, QRIS activities, training and professional development and technical assistance. 340,000 for quality activities specifically directed for infants and toddlers. Now, let's go back. Was 163,000 ever provided, Miss Vicky, to this administration through the CARES Act? Was it transmitted to this agency?
I know that the government had received 36.2 million in CARES, but I believe that there is a separate allocation specifically from the program itself, the U.S. program itself, towards the program here, outside of that 36.2 million. But I can scroll down to the federal program just to see, because I saw some CARES allocation towards the program.
Okay. And then if you can, and I don't know if you have access to that, Ms. Vicky, but can you give us any balances that are, if it is available, through this actual press release? So what was allocated, if it was even given, transmitted, and then if there are any balances. So I think here, we'll just start with administration first, the 163,000.
So we ran a report,
Mhm.
this morning for FY 2022 and 23
Okay.
through Munis.
Okay.
And these are it's a year-to-date budget report, and I'm not sure. Well, it's the general fund. So we would have to run the programs for
Okay.
the federal programs, because these are all just local account that I brought with me.
All right. So at some point, in regard to the 3.25 million, can you please provide this committee in terms of budgetary planning and budgetary requests for fiscal year 2024? We'd like to know if there's any of these federal funds that was transmitted and if there are any balances left based on this press release. Would that be possible?
Yes, that is possible.
Okay. And then, so if you could maybe give that to us before we break, I guess, after all the budget hearings, so that in terms, again, of proper budgetary planning for this committee, we can make sound decisions, right, that are fair and based on need and requests. But I would like to know the um, what is left of this 3.25 million, or if it was even given to them at that point. Okay, thanks. All right, so let's go to the Manamco Center first. I'm sorry, Walter, I know you're freezing back there, but can you please come up? Okay. Earlier you mentioned that you had purchased a vessel. Was that vessel procured by a grant?
Yeah.
And how
Our-
much was the grant?
So we received a little bit over 300 some $1,000.
300 some $1,000.
Yeah, and
Okay.
this is under ARPA,
And this was under ARPA.
not the one that's appropriated to the governor. It's to our ACL program ARPA.
ACL program ARPA. Now,
Yes.
how much in total ARPA funds did you receive?
Total,
Yes.
I can get you that figure.
Can you
later
get
on.
us that figure, please? So that, again, in terms of budgetary planning,
Sure.
we want to make sure that, whatever money was appropriated was either spent, and if there was any balances, we'd like to know if that was transmitted or not.
Right.
Okay.
So the ARPA grants are that we receive are also basically separated, just like how the regular ACL grants are.
Correct.
So
Okay.
you know,
So,
ARPA for food, ARPA for
yes,
yeah.
I'd like to know all of that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you. So that was by the grant. And then how much does it cost to maintain this vessel?
We don't use the vessel very often, so they kind of go by the hours of use. So every
Right.
hours,
Mhm.
yeah, it varies
Okay.
depending on.
I was at the Manamco Center
Mhm.
a couple months ago, and it's just kind of left under the sun.
Yeah. You want to
Yes.
give us money so we can build a garage?
Well, I mean, I think first, I'm not even going to get into that,
Okay.
director, but
Yeah.
um,
No,
what I'm
it's
trying
okay.
to understand here,
Sure.
because if you are using that boat for whatever purpose you seem fit necessary for your program, right? The longevity of your asset is also very important.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my point is that it sits under the sun. That was my point,
Sure.
and I want to know when was the last time it was used?
Several months ago.
Okay, several
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah.
If you don't use a boat regularly, obviously there's some maintenance that needs to occur. So several months ago, as in 2, 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
The reason why we actually have it dry docked is we are waiting for brand new engines to be installed. Because those engines are not they're not in mint conditions, and
I-
I wanted safety to be my highest priority.
Of course, and I'm very familiar with how to manage an asset like a boating vessel.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and again, I'm asking for purposes of longevity of your
Sure.
inventory.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you take this vessel and you take it for whatever purpose, as mentioned earlier, who is the captain of this ship?
Um. So we actually partner up with HPO.
Okay.
We have a captain, Mr. Lufo Babata, that would drive the vessel.
Okay.
We also have also under the Arts Council, see Mr. Jason Odon.
Okay. So I'm just wanting to make sure that you have a licensed captain to do that.
Well, Lufo's a licensed captain.
I'm sorry?
Lufo
Okay,
is a
that's
licensed
good.
captain.
So then, in assuming that your vessel does work, what would be the frequency to use this boat on a regular basis or for a fiscal year?
So it varies. We use the vessel if we're gonna travel to Tinian or to Rota. Um, Due to water conditions, we try to go to Rota more so towards summer, which we have better waters. But for Tinian, as needed. So we try to
Tinian as
utilize it whenever we can.
As needed.
Conducting PDs, transporting of goods, which is probably going to be every month.
So how much does it take to fill up a tank of gas, or
Yeah,
for this vessel?
it's going to be a little bit over $1,000.
$1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is all supported by local funds or within the
Federal.
grant?
Zero local. All
Zero
federal.
local. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then,
So if you use it during the summer or as an as needed basis, so Tinian gets the most bang for their buck because it's closer,
It's a lot closer,
Okay.
and considering safety.
right? And then
For
Rhoda is strictly if again as needed or toward the summer when the waters are
yeah, when we feel that the water is not at the safest condition, we will contract somebody to be able to deliver the produce down to
Okay.
Rhoda.
So in terms of maintenance, and I'm almost done. In terms of maintenance, that would be again grant funded also.
Yes.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
all of this is 100% grant funds.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. I think I'm done with Manamco Center. Thank you.
Okay.
I think next would be HPO. Who's gonna? Anybody? Hi. It's okay, sir. I won't bite. Okay. Can you state your name, please? Sorry. Oh, press the button.
Good morning.
Yeah.
My name is John Colosius,
Mm-hmm.
and you can call me JP.
JP, got it. We have a JP here too in the legislature. Did you know that?
I need to repeat.
Okay, so I'm not sure how much of my questions you can answer, but I only had two. One most pressing, and I think you had mentioned this, Madam Secretary, the need for the archaeologist, and that has a very big impact in terms of um, investment as far as economic development and so forth. Um, Describe to me if we do not fill this position, right? Knowing that we have a lot of federal projects um, in our inventory as far as grants, grant awards. What will the wait time be for your current staff, right? To at least, I don't know how they would network with their own people or what their MOUs are, but the impact will obviously be very devastating, right? Um, what is the wait time currently now with your archaeologist who was 100% federally funded and now you may lose him at some point? But what was the turnaround rate on clearances and whatever stuff needed?
I believe our discussion was 21 days is what we have,
Uh-huh.
but it really varies per, whatever the situation is at hand. And maybe, JP, you can elaborate on that.
Yeah. First of all, the staff archaeologist is a required key position under the HPF grant, which is the Historic Preservation Fund grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the Section 106s, those are projects that are federally funded projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are two types of permitting level reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So one is the federally funded projects, which are projects that are funded by federal grants, and which is a federal requirement.
Right.
Now the other one is the local level, which is the DEQ one start permitting process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so for the one start, the time frame for clearances as far as the HP is concerned must be expedited like 21 days.
Okay. Thank you for that.
But again, it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the magnitude of the project, and it depends on the magnitude of the project footprints, and it depends on the location of the project.
Okay, thank you for that. So you mentioned that there is a historic preservation fund.
Yes.
Do you know what the balance
Uh,
of that
pres-
fund is?
Uh, to be frank with you, I'm not the grants. I'm a part of the review and compliance permitting area.
Okay.
Perhaps the secretary might have some figures that
Okay.
she can provide you
All
with.
right. Thank you, sir. I mean, I don't want to burden you with my questions because I think the director of your department should, because she's not here and she is injured. I guess we'll just kind of wait on her when she can appear.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So the revolving fund, there's a historic preservation revolving fund, Miss Vicky?
There is, but the amount is very limited.
Do you know what that amount is?
Right now, what they
Mhm.
have in when we prepared this budget for FY 2024, what we captured on the historic preservation fund, there's $90.
Oh, boy. Okay, thank you. I guess we'll look into that at some point. All right, so this brings me, I guess, now to NAP. And it would be you, Madam Secretary? Okay. So in terms of fraud, I know that there has been an increase in fraudulent activities with some or several or hundreds maybe of recipients. What is your current, I guess you would call this receivables because you're going to have to get this back somehow. What is your current receivable on fraudulent recipient, I guess, identifications or inventory or whatever it is, the correct form or language you use? What is your receivables on that now?
Okay, we are still as a couple of days ago, we discussed putting together the report to see how much has been recouped and how much do we have yet to uh, you know initiate the recoupment, new recoupment. So it we don't have a figure at this time, me anyway, because just coming in, I'm looking into these things and I want to start at a certain time. Now it we cannot I'm trying to see what are the current recoupment that's going on now, because you can only go back a certain number of years, 2 or 3 years, to be able to recoup. So anything beyond that, so that's the figure we're trying to get. In addition to that, like we're trying to do a gather information and statistical data on uh, retail redemption. What are the redeemed coupons versus what we pay the banks? Uh, all the data we're trying to put together. So hoping to get that all complete in the next couple weeks. All of this was activated by me because we received on May 4th a report from a federal review that was conducted in February
Do
before
you
I
have
came in.
do you have the federal review number on that so that we can take a look at that? What was the memo number or the directive number on your review?
I don't have it with me,
Okay.
but I can get that
Sure.
to you.
Thank you.
There's two different reports on that. One is the management evaluation findings and the fiscal findings. So we have 60 days to act and react. So we have 30 days from now. That's what's getting all this data
Okay.
activated on my part.
So once you've completed your, I guess your corrective action plan, can we see a copy of both reports conducted by the federal government
Yes.
and then your action plan
yes.
and your response to this committee?
Yes.
Thank you. And inclusive of that would be also the fiscal. If you can give us a fiscal report on fraudulent
activities by the recipients, I guess, in terms of numbers. Can you go back at least 5 years?
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
shall try.
Is there a need for an administrative hearing officer in the NAP program?
Just my take. At this point, at this time, no.
In any of your programs?
Um, I don't think so. DYS, no. I think
Okay.
so.
So, how many federal grants by division? Can we start with you, DYS? How many federal grants in your division?
Okay, so I have quite a few. The biggest that I mentioned earlier was the 1.5 million.
I think I'd like to know where the grantor.
Okay, so the grant for that is
Mhm.
the grantor for that is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The 1.5 million is actually 9 pieces of awards, but it's a consolidation, and that's why we operate based on the 29 Uniform Definition of Services. The Leadership in Disabilities and Achievement of Hawaii is in itself the grantor is the Leadership in Disabilities, and that's the 20,000 I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The ARPA is the Family and Violence Prevention and Services Act,
Mm-hmm.
also under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services,
Mhm.
and then of course the CJPA funds that we have.
Okay, and I will get with you at some soon.
Sure.
Okay, so Manamko, how many grants do you receive? 10?
About 10, yes.
Okay.
So we have 7 under the Administration for Community Living, 1 under the USDOL,
Mm-hmm.
1 under the Aging and Disability Resource Center,
Mhm.
and we are currently working on the Adult Protective Service.
Okay, thank you. Uh,
For HBO, we have 2, both from National Park Service.
National Park Service, okay, HPO.
For LIHEAP, there's only 2, but in the 2, there's 3. One for the low-income home energy assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and one is the low-income household water assistance program. Within the 2 big grants, there's components within.
Mhm.
So under the there's like 3 so far that I receive under the block grant, the emergency supplemental funds and infrastructure.
Okay,
Now for the LIHEAP is the consolidated and the ARPA.
okay. And you get no federal funds, sir? Thank you, ma'am, for that.
No.
Okay, so in terms of all of the, oh, I'm sorry, child care development.
So there are 2 grants, and all under the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Child Care. We have the discretionary funds and we have the mandatory funds.
Okay, and then I thank you for that. I'll get back and ask you all those questions afterwards. Thank you. Okay, that's a lot of grants. All right. Okay, no. All right, so I think I'm done with NAP, Secretary. And you also mentioned that you have plans of transitioning into SNAP. Do you see a date of, I guess, implementation?
Actually, we are reviewing the pros and cons of getting into SNAP. We don't have any set plans at this time, but I did speak to our FNS resources, and they've we're trying to see how we can gradually, if we absolutely have to, how can we gradually get into it, because there's there's so many good things about it, but then when you talk about the matching,
Okay.
if we cannot even have money for repairs and maintenance and fuel and stuff essential to survive, how are we going to produce matching in the millions?
Okay, so can you tell me what that matching would be?
It'll be something like between $2 to $4 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So now I'd like to go to the DYS. Thank you, Madam Chair. So you have you mentioned about 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, all 100% federal fund. Is that correct?
28.
28, okay. But the other two are matching local or percentage local and federal, correct?
So I have 11 FTEs with a 20% matching for the local.
And how much is that?
About 80,000.
80,000?
Mhm.
Okay. You also have here under one of your programs the foster kinship care program, and you get a percentage from the CJPA Victims of Crimes Act grants. What is your
Correct.
percentage?
So we actually, it depends on the award. So we've been getting an average of 50,000 for each award.
Okay.
We've been awarded for the last three grant applications.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that, there's no IDC being assessed, so the whole grant award goes to foster care payments.
Foster care payments. Ooh. So does psychological evaluations get paid under this grant?
No,
Ha-
those
okay.
get paid under our social services block grant.
And how much in funding do you receive out of that social service block grant?
So earlier I mentioned out of the 1.5, we are at about a little bit over a million in personnel, minus the IDC at 60 some thousand. The 300 some thousand is what I have to use for the 29 services,
Mm-hmm.
which includes counseling.
Counseling, okay. And through this counseling, do you get any other supports from that through any other agencies that you collaborate with on a daily basis, like the court
No. Well,
or
first
Caradot?
let's go back. No, let's
Okay.
go back to CJPA.
All right.
Besides the VOCA, we do have JAG awards.
Mm-hmm.
So under that JAG awards, we do have some counseling money. For last fiscal year, DYS spent a total of about 130,000 just in counseling services.
Okay. So CJPA receives about 6 grants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are you a recipient of all of those grants?
Not all of it. So we just get our JAG for the prevention program,
Mm-hmm.
and also JAG for juvenile supervision.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is the Victims of Crime Act, which is the foster care.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Vivian. Youth Empowerment Solutions. Okay, never mind that. It says here that you guys pay for drug testing under the kinship care program. Is that correct?
It's actually across the board. So the drug testing is generally under the Child Protective Services
Uh-huh.
when we are working with families and we're being asked to assess the
Mhm.
homes,
Mm-hmm.
monitor for reunification.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the ongoing monitoring effort.
Okay. How much do these kits cost?
So each drug test is about $40.
Okay. And how many times do you administer this?
I don't have the exact numbers, but I know for last fiscal year we were looking at about 20,000 just for drug testing.
Wow. Okay. And that is, I'm sorry, funded through a program, through the grant?
That's funded again under the social
Okay.
services block
Thank
grant.
you. Forgive me because
No,
you
no,
have so
that's no
much money
problem.
going around here and so many programs. I'm just trying to have a number here.
That's exactly why I have my papers, because even me, I cannot remember everything.
Okay. So then, can I request then that you please furnish us a copy of the grants that you received, the grant awards, and can you at least give us then a copy of your grant award letter? That way we can see your goals and objectives and how much, where the money will be going as far as how you'll be spending that money.
Yes, I can
Okay.
provide you a funding source today.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Miss
Marisa,
Vivian.
please. We have other.
I know, I'm just going down the program
I
list.
understand,
Thank you.
but we
I
are-
yield.
Who's next one? Angelo. So It's 12 o'clock. We want to wrap up. So
I understand, Chairman. Thank you for recognizing me, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But real quick, I just want to welcome you, Madam Secretary, and your team. Um, I thank you for sharing your concerns and your challenges. I do see the passion in each one of you, to serving our community, and I really thank you guys for that. Um, I just had a few questions in regards to the renovation grant, but you pretty much answered all of them. However, I do want to ask, when was the grant awarded and how much?
It was awarded, I don't have the exact month, but it was in 2021, 2020. But then the countdown is 2021, 22, 23. So it's total is $6 million
Okay, and you mentioned that it expires on September 30th, correct?
this year,
This
September
year.
30, 2023.
And have you guys submitted that request for extension already?
Uh, I asked for the extension. They wanted to see uh, something significant. So I'm ready to move on with to start work in Capitol Hill. That's number one on the list on the grant. And so I think once we start, I had a Zoom meeting with the director herself, and she's very amenable to helping us. And so I feel really good about once we start this work, we ask for an extension. I feel good about getting us an extension. I believe the way she spoke that she wants us to do this. So
Okay, that's
I'm looking
great.
forward.
Yeah, I guess we're all hoping that it is granted. That's a lot of money to kind of
Yeah.
lose out on. So, well, thank you for that response. And just in regards to the CCD,
CCDF.
yeah, I just want to hope that you can consider the legislators as first responders as well. Thank you. You.
All right, thank you, Chair. The first question I had, or actually before I get to the questions, I just want to congratulate you, Secretary, for your appointment. Um, I know the department will be in good hands under your leadership. And also thank you to all the hardworking individuals at DCCA. The first question is geared towards the Manomco Center. Um, has the Office of Aging looked into access for Title IV funding for the Manomco? So this would be, for example, there's no discrimination in terms of education. Um, so the Manomco are entitled to Title IV funding through college programs, and um, I just wanted, given that we're limited in resources, give you some additional streams to try and tie into your activities. So, for example, computer classes for the Manomco. Now some countries even have initiatives for those Manomco that are willing to get into the workforce. Um, they have initiatives like that to encourage more of that. Um, there's given our CW shortfall, we can utilize some of their skills. Maybe not the skills that require too much physical activity, but for those that are able to, I'm sure um, uh, things where it's more on the intellectual side and historical side and other aspects of that. But yeah, Title IV funding, it's a lot of money that it's that Manamco are entitled to. The next question is for the food stamp office. They're not here, but given that I know it's going to be, thank you. First of all, thank you for looking at the cost benefit analysis of moving from the NAP block grant to SNAPs. I know Congressman Kilili has been pushing this idea for several years. As a former recipient of the of food stamps when I was in college, it's really beneficial. The advantages of the SNAP program is it's nationwide. So if we have like right now, our recipients that are receiving food stamp are limited to Saipan, right? But if the agency moved to the SNAP program, those that are on medical referral or others, instead of getting a stipend, they can use their SNAP, their EBT card. So we really have to look at the cost benefit analysis. And I just wanted to say change is always hard. When I started at the Northern Marianas College, nobody wanted to change the process. It was still very antiquated, kind of like the way the food stamp system is. But today, the college is very much automated. Students are able to get their transcripts online from anywhere in the world. They're able to register from anywhere in the world. So, what happened that year is the college, I went from 20 personnel to 5. So I had to say, okay, what can I do to increase services given the resources that I have? So that's why we automated most of our processes. Um, so, for example, the food stamp right now, what is the cost of the distribution operation? So, the every day that there's a distribution, how many FTEs are there? How many hours? If there's overtime? Um, I mean, I know that might be a hard question to answer, but if we look at how many FTEs and the average, like just a ballpark figure, if you can, it's okay.
Well, 20 years ago, when I left DCCA, the food stamp program was receiving about 15 million in funds, and that included administrative costs and the coupons that we would give to our community. Now it's doubled. It's 30 million now. So, and we don't have too much of an increase in staff. So really, when they do uh, the coupons itself, the printing is outsourced, but the validation is done inside. So when validation and verification is done, all hands on deck again. Everybody's in there helping to make sure it's prepped and ready for distribution. uh, we spend about 3,484 uh, uh, dollars in coupons a month. I'm sorry, 3,484. Did I say that right the first time? That's how much we spend a month. So you can, if you multiply that times the 12 months that we have, you can tell the 30 million is not enough. That's where you see the obvious shortfall. So the number of people we serve is almost 13,000, and the number of households is almost 5,000. So uh, every single employee, including the acting administrator, is down there validating every month. That's the cycle. No.
So, so the reason why I brought that up is, um, there's that's a lot of manpower just to distribute coupons. So I just wanted to find out, has the NAP program looked into certified mail distribution? The cost benefit of just mailing it out to uh, certified mail, meaning like you can uh, at least maybe for those smaller post office.
No, we've looked into that,
Right.
but you have to keep in mind out here in the CNMI is very different than the US. No, we have a lot of people who have general delivery,
Right.
and the danger of coupons getting lost, other people taking other people's coupons. it's erroneous. So that's our what we think is going to happen. So uh, we are looking forward to the EBT in February. We just have to get over the hurdle now of getting there, and in the meantime, just try to make it as efficient as possible. Uh, the hard part right now with NAP is our staff. Everybody is required to come down and help, and so they run in and out to the cars, and they get sick, they get wet, they get the heat. It's really hard on the staff. So we're trying to find ways, even for the next 8 months, if how we can make things better for the staff. I uh, you might not believe this, but I stood out there and I walked from NAP office as far to Guangdong as I can, asking every car, how do you feel about this drive-through? Oh, we love it. We'd rather this drive-through than walking in your office, because here we can have all our kids in the car and it's okay. They're all contained. One said he could come in his farm clothes and it's okay. So they only one person out of all of that line of cars that I walked said, "Ma'am, it doesn't matter to me if I have to walk in, I'll walk in as long as I get help." I said, "Okay." So, but every single car, with the exception of that one, said they like the drive-through. So, it's for the staff that I need to look at how we can make it a little bit easier for the staff until we can get those EBT cards in. We are still reviewing the contract to make sure that it's fine enough, and that it addresses everything we need to get those EBTs ready for February. We hope to stay on target.
Thank you, Secretary. Would those EBT cards be able to be used like off island, or is the plan just on island for now?
I'm hoping that it can be used off island.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we will be discussing with the contractor.
All right. So, preventing fraud and loss of tax dollars via food stamp. I know we had this discussion personally. I know there's many of us that experienced that at the store. Um, so it's twofold. Is one, um, uh, purchasing non-food items like cigarettes and beer with food stamps. That's kind of sad because that's going to affect the family overall. Kids get less food, which is it defeats the purpose. The other thing is I'm not really looking at the individual families, because the cause of that is the vendor, the merchant, um, that's allowing that. And these are the same merchants that are not, like the recent article from finance regarding BGRT and the NAP redemptions not being consistent. So, is there a plan to prevent that? Because if we can get a hold on those kind of issues, I know it's also finance, but at the same time, it can also be food stamp. If the food stamp office suspends a lot of those violators, um, then businesses like Joten or Payless that are more honest with paying taxes, then we would see more revenue, more tax dollars coming in, which in turn is going to help agencies like DCCA and the entire government. So, although it may seem like another office's responsibility, tax and rev or finance, uh, NAP also has a significant authority to prevent fraud. So I do ask that if that can be taken care of, it's going to help everyone in general in the long run, especially during this financial crisis. So these are more statements, but I think you got enough questions for today, and I know the department's in good hands. The other one is the rehabilitation grants for HPO. 6 million is a lot of money. And in fact, like people get terminated for losing 10 million. Um, but I'm not alluding to that, but I'm just saying it would be really negligent if, especially if we don't get that extension. And that 6 million could have went to other programs like youth affairs, I mean youth services. It could went to the Manomco. So for example, if we renovated some of these historical buildings or residences, Manomco could be placed there. So you can help your within your division, establish some of those. So you know hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but I hope that each agency that manages grants, especially federal grants, we use those to improve on the sustainability of the programs that we offer. We look at, for example, if not just, oh, we're getting all this federal money and then we just spend it, but we use that federal money to ensure that our programs continue and can be sustainable. So, for example, if HPO invested in a lot of these historical sites, then in working with MVA, put in a permit for tourists to visit those. Then portion of those permit fees goes back to HPO or DCCA. It can be self-sustaining. Other countries do that when you visit historical sites. So I think we can do it as well. Um, Utilities. I don't know what's the trend here with the central government, but I think Ms. V, every agency should be putting in utilities. It can be paid by the office of the governor, but we should be able to know how much each agency utility costs. So if in case there's a shortfall, we don't have to think about it later. We can plan for it ahead of time. Because I think of all the agencies that came in, most of them except the autonomous didn't. They had zero on their utilities, which can be problematic. Um, what is the cost for the canoe carvers? FTE costs. Yeah.
Forgive me. This council. I have 17,196 each.
And there's two of them, three of them.
There's two.
Okay.
Well, two is what we need. We currently have two, but we need two more.
And we need them. What's the deadline to have the canoe ready to go to FESPAC?
Before summer next year, we need to have the canoe done.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted the members to know that so that maybe we can help in that regard. So yeah, we look forward to helping DCCA legislation and possibly loans. All these other agencies are taking out loans and fees are going towards, like the court was here earlier and they took away from Peter, which is DPS, to pay themselves, and they were Paul for a while, and now it's time to give Peter back the money so that Peter can rehabilitate you know his department as well. So I think you guys can look into the same process, because if DCCA doesn't do it, it's never gonna be a pretty picture because you're gonna continue to come up and ask for money. But we need to help you guys become more self-sustaining, and you have programs that can make that happen. So I look forward to working with you, and I'm sure our colleagues do as well. And just last, thank you, Mr. Salas, for baptizing me, Camacho. But Fino defunto Antonio Camacho, i costume fanyago i Camacho. So I'm Rep Costro, and I look forward to working with you as well. I do see a lot of my kids go to daycare as well. Unfortunately, I don't qualify. Thank you, Rep Angelo, for you know, hopefully maybe we can qualify. But wherever it goes, priority first. Again, it may seem like a cost, but it's a benefit which trickles down to all the other agencies. So if parents cannot get this subsidy, then they cannot work, which they cannot pay taxes, which in turn. So it's a systemic problem, but we're also looking for systemic solutions. So please, we look forward to working with you, and thank you for all you do, both of the licensing and the subsidy department. Um, I believe that's all I have. Thank you, Chair, for being nice. Sus Mosi.
Thank you, Rep Camacho. Rep Julie.
Okay, so give me a moment here. I just want to make sure I'm not asking the same questions because I believe I may be the last member to ask questions. It's going to be quick. Congratulations, Director. Welcome, Team DCCA and all of your teams under your department. So my first question is, I know the Director Walter brought up the 5% that you're using towards utilities, correct? And
No, that's our administrative cap.
but then you're using a
So
portion of that for utilities also?
yes.
Okay. So my question is, I know um, the shelter for the aging office here in Rhoda and possibly Tinian is being utilized during the disaster, situation. So my question is, have you looked into maybe possibly getting reimbursed by the FEMA for, the utilization of that shelter for utilities? I'm not sure if that's applicable, but it's just a question. I'm just curious. And that applies to everybody who uses the 5% for utilities.
Yeah, we actually consider that, but that's a very big part of our program. So emergency preparedness, being able to utilize the shelter, especially if it's for the seniors and people with disabilities,
Mhm.
then it's still covered on our end.
Mm.
But we can definitely seek for help if we need to.
Yeah, that would really help,
Sure.
alleviate the cost of
Thank-
utilities. And you can use that 5% or portion of that 5% for utilities for maybe something else. So my
Yes.
next question is youth services. You're requesting for emergency care taker for the shelter?
Correct.
Yes. And how many right now do you have
I have
filled
6
in?
caretakers right now.
Mhm.
I've learned of the 2 that were recently added on the revised budget law. So if I can maintain that, it'll be good. Um, in terms of the 12 additional that was mentioned earlier, I'm not sure where that's going to.
Mhm.
But I like I said, I'll ask for the vacant grant writer to remain and for those 2 shelter caretakers to remain.
Okay, so those two shelter or caretaker, they're based here in Saipan.
Correct, because we have the emergency shelter here in Saipan.
And how about like for example, Rhoda, when they use the Manamco Center for shelter, are you guys going to be? I mean, these numbers does that include maybe Tinian and Rhoda or just for Saipan?
For the 24/7 shelter that I'm referring to, it's the shelter for victims of child abuse and
I see.
neglect.
Okay.
Now, maybe to add on to his response for the disaster shelter, because we also operate at the Kakman Community Center. Um, Sometimes we are the long-term shelter, but for this last time we operated less than a week. So sometimes we gotta think: is it feasible to kind of, because we used it for the remaining of the month. So sometimes it's hard unless we open, even though we are the long-term shelter, unless we open for so many months. Maybe that would be ideal. But if it's for just a small period of time, it might be hard to ask for reimbursement.
Okay, thank you. Back to aging office. How many Title V employees do you have right now in Rhoda, Mr. Director Maloney?
6.
6 Title. One of them is a cook, but I don't see that her. I saw her name on the budget. She's not. She's being funded. It's been funded through the local. I thought that was under Title Five. Correct me if I'm wrong.
One of them is a cook,
Yes,
a
Eva.
CSEP.
Yeah.
Oh, Eva is not a Title Five.
Oh, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
remember when my mom
Right. Yes.
resigned, she was Title Five, right?
No.
No.
No,
Oh,
I actually hire her as a full time
okay.
cook.
So
Yeah.
okay. So disregard that question.
Okay, no problem.
All right. One more question is childcare provider. It's just very quick. You said that the program is funded 100% by federal grant, right? Sorry. Oh, she's the only one that. Okay. Welcome back.
The Child Care Development Fund program is 100% federal funds.
Okay. So, and there's still money, right?
We should still have some money.
Okay. I guess it's leading to the concern. I brought it up to the Secretary Sablon that there's there's numerous times that the payouts has been delayed for the home-based
Mhm.
care providers. That's why I'm asking if there's still money in there. Just give me a brief, summary. What's the situation at
Yes,
hand?
yes, ma'am. So generally, when a payment is late, or when somebody says, where is my payment, we need to look into where is the problem, because just because you are an authorized provider, you need to meet certain requirements. So, and some of these requirements that includes payment would be: did you submit an invoice? Because on a monthly basis, in order for you as a provider to be paid, you need to submit an invoice. So was there an invoice submitted? So if there is an invoice provided, then we go through the process of payment. So within the CCDF office, our processing time is between 16 to 17 days, work days. And then from then on, once the secretary has approved it on Munis, then the processing then moves into the Department of Finance. And so from the Department of Finance, they do their own processing until we get to a drawdown. So if the drawdown is made, then Treasury would be able to to print the checks. Uh, and lately, one of the issues that we're having is not within the CNMI, it is with the federal. And we have been communicating with the federal side in terms of the drawdown when the money would be available. So I think there is a misconception that once the grant is approved, that the money is in the CNMI. It's not. The money is made available through a drawdown
Yes.
process.
Understand. All right. I guess those home-based caregivers, they've been existing in the system, and all they're doing is just renewing and submitting the invoice. So I guess, like you said, lately there's been an issue with the federal side, right? And how long ago did that started?
Oh, it's on and off.
Oh,
So it's been, there were some months that a few months now.
okay.
And really, even on their side, they're not understanding what's going on.
Okay.
So, but we do communicate almost every day, and our CCDF accountant actually has a number that we call directly to the person that approves the drawdown.
All right. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep.
Happy
Julie.
lunch, everybody.
And I'll take the last, no, Rep. Benavente.
Thank you for the last chair. Everybody's saying that it's what you call that? It's borrow Jack to give to Jill type approach. But anyway, Secretary, welcome, and team, welcome. I just got two questions that I like to. I mean, a question and a statement. I would like to ask the director for what you call that, childcare licensing. I've been there too, so I know it. But how many childcare provider now that are licensed under the licensing program?
So
currently under the child care licensing, we have about 25 license centers.
Okay. And you said you're getting federal funds, some of the federal funds assistance from
Yes, significantly, I've been getting assistance fairly, but
CCDF.
not mandate.
Yeah.
Um, like I said earlier, I am put in a position where I need to seek funding in order
Yeah.
to keep the program afloat. And I reflect the sentiments of the secretary because we are a regulatory body. We have to walk that fine line, and so that we don't have any appearance of impropriety so that we become and remain objective and neutral. And so, but I am, yes, I am I am put in a position where I seek funding from another program, namely the Child Care and Development Fund.
Thank you for that, because also I know, like, and that's a good gesture for uh, CCDF to be providing you some funds because of the connections that you're the licensing authority over here on Saipan and the CNMI. So with that said, I like to ask also, I mean, to share also with the CCDF people, Maribel and Rizal. Um, since you're providing some funds to these people, I'm I think you'll be very beneficial for us legislatures, to so we can more or less try to see all the different assistance that you would give out, to the community and even within your office. And we would like to see, your basically your the total amount of your submissions to the federal government. Every year that we come like for a budget as a budget year over here, we would like to see that it would be presented to this body at least so we can know the reality of what's really going on instead of you know hiding it and giving it to Jack and Jill. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but I'm just saying that we like some clarity. Really, we're dealing with situations like I've watched the Manamco director was very emotional with regards to the situation, and really, this is really you guys have top heavy. The secretary, your your office is top heavy when it comes to fiscal capacity that to operate with. So I just like to share with everyone, that please let's be candid for whatever we want to do and be more helpful in helping one another if we can afford with. Another thing too that I like to share is that to the CCDF, since you're the one handling all the payments for the what's called the providers. Um, my office been and not only my office been receiving a lot of calls about recipients, from precinct one, mainly some from precinct one and other areas too, and they're complaining about not being paid for the and these are home based type providers. They're complaining that they haven't been paid for the amount of money that they are, putting the billing for. And I adhere to what you said earlier, that you have to submit all the required documents and whatnot. And I leave it with your discretion on that. But just for the fact that uh, I also know that these people won't be complaining if they feel that they are not being, it's not being afforded to what they're supposed to be. So, and only the day before, I get a phone call from, a couple of phone call from people. So we would like to see this, move ahead. Secretary, be aware of it, please, and that I know we're in for the service. You guys are service providers, and I'm aware of that as well as us. We try to work together to make ends meet. So I don't have much. I don't have a lot of questions with regards to that. Only this kind of things that are hunting, that it's affecting also. But other areas, I know the shortfall of the $6 million, situation, stuff like that. I know about that because I've been dealing with other people with regards to the grants and whatnot. So I got those informations too about the HPO and everything, all the projects and whatnot. But with that said, I just hope the best for you. We would work together. We will, for myself, so long I'm here, I'm going to work with you guys. No matter how it is, this is our obligation. And I think my colleagues here also would do the same. And thank you, Secretary. Thank you for the opportunity of coming up here and presenting to us, Vicky, Jesus Mossy. And you are always, every time we have all these things, you're always here to assist us. So thank you for that. And thank you, all of you guys. Chairman, I yield my time.
Thank you, Rep Benaventi, and thank you for thank you, Secretary, for making yourself available today. I know that we're beyond the allotted time. Just one last question with regards to Office of Aging. There is 9 additional FTEs that was allotted to you. Are those all going to be filled, or
Yeah, we get 9 FTEs, but not all of them were budgeted. So if it was budgeted, I can guarantee you all of them will be.
I just want
And
to
I
just
will promise to make sure that we think of our Manamco Center in Rhoda and Tinian
okay.
as
Thank
well.
you for that clarification. And with that, Secretary, I'll offer the you back to you for your closing, if any. If not, I understand the time is expired.
Yeah, no, I'll be very fast. Actually, um, the Dunklunas Zusmasi in Kursun Mami in Disesea and Azudami Gagago Amzua Zudun Mizu. Please, we I'm at a point, okay? I'm not just here to ask. I'm here to beg. So I'm looking forward. If you have any questions, please, if you need any more data, well, whatever you need, we will provide, because we're here sincerely, honestly, for our community, our children up to Manamku. Taset bito tota. No, and we're doing our best, but really we just need at least a little bit to keep us going, to help us out. Yeah. And so I leave it at that. I thank all of you too for your time. My directors and I stand ready to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary, again for and you and your management team. Oh, okay. Sorry. Well,
Short. Yeah, just to add into the FTE needs. Just for the record, I've been requesting for a driver on the island of Tinian. They don't have a driver to deliver the meal, so we've been using our CSEP employees to be able to do that. In Rhoda, we really need cooks. We need somebody to help prepare the meals. And here in Saipan, I have 7 employees that are on temporary federal grants that will be expiring soon. And we're looking at a very big challenge ahead of us if I'm going to have to let all of these employees go. It's going to be very difficult for us moving forward.
thank you, Director, for that clarification. I will note that, and when we deliver, we'll consider. I'm sure the representative from the island of Tinian and Rhoda will be here to represent. So With that, Secretary, thank you. Thank you for making yourself available for us. I understand that we have, or we understand that we have new members that needs a lot of clarification. I wish that we had more time, but doesn't prevent us from asking or calling you up again in the future. And with that, if there's no further, I will now adjourn. Thank you.